subs, welcome back. We love you, we see you, and honestly, watching this family makes our own family group chats look incredibly healthy.
I mean, truly. The bar is literally in the mud right now.
In the absolute mud. Like, I am already exhausted just thinking about the sheer volume of dysfunction we have to unbox today.
Oh, it is a staggering amount of dysfunction.
It is. So, I hope you have a glass in hand, Snark Squad, because for tonight's recap, we are sipping on smoked old fashions on deck. We felt that this absolute mess of a royal court deserves a stiff, smoky cocktail.
A literal smoke show
Yeah.
for a figurative smoke show of a kingdom. I mean, it feels highly appropriate.
Exactly. Something with a little burn to it to match the bridges these characters are actively setting on fire like every 5 minutes.
Yeah, they are just burning everything down, so cheers to you all.
Cheers. A toast to the Snark Squad for surviving another week without accidentally starting a civil war, which is apparently very hard to do in Westeros.
Or, accidentally minting your own face on a rogue decentralized currency.
Oh my gosh, the coins!
We have to talk about the coins.
You're going to spiral so hard over the coins later, I swear. But okay, before we get into the absolute unmitigated chaos of King's Landing, we need to set the stage a bit. We are talking about Season 3, Episode 5, Unbowed and Unbent.
Right, and the overarching theme tonight is really this concept of hunting and being hunted.
Yes, the predators and the prey. And our mission today is dissecting this messy family drama, all the shadow politics, and the absolute failure of literally anyone in this universe to just sit down and talk to each other.
It is a masterclass in terrible communication.
It really is. But thinking about all these terrible rulers really got me thinking about the fantasy of control. So let's play a game before we jump into the recap.
Oh, I'm always ready for a hypothetical.
Okay, so if you are handed absolute unchecked power over a kingdom for one single year, what is your very first royal decree?
Well, this is incredibly easy for me, and it goes straight to the heart of everything structurally wrong with Westeros. I am dictating a ruthlessly efficient, mandatory communication law.
Oh, of course you are.
Hear me out. I want mandatory weekly therapy for all lords, ladies, and small council members. It will be mediated by a licensed professional who is completely politically neutral.
Like a maester, but for feelings.
Exactly. And no daggers allowed in the room. You are legally required, under threat of exile, to use I feel statements.
Wait, I am just imagining someone looking at the Iron Throne and being like, I feel like you usurped my birthright, and it is making me feel really unseen.
Yes. Or, when you hide my conqueror's crown in a satchel, I feel disrespected.
That is amazing.
Think about the logistical nightmare of the Seven Kingdoms, right? You cannot run a continent if your hand of the king is secretly plotting against your master of coin, and everyone is communicating via passive-aggressive carrier raven.
The carrier ravens are so dramatic.
It is the most inefficient system imaginable. We would save tens of thousands of lives and millions of gold dragons just by forcing these people to sit in a circle and talk about their feelings for an hour every single Freitas.
I love how your brain works. You are so purely analytical, like you immediately want to optimize the realm's emotional output for maximum efficiency.
It's just good governance.
Meanwhile, my first decree is abolishing something incredibly petty, but I think it's necessary. I am abolishing uncomfortable, jagged wooden chairs.
You're abolishing chairs.
Every seat in the Red Keep is going to be memory foam. I am serious. And on top of that, mandatory mental health days. If your dragon is acting up or you just had a terrifying prophetic vision of the future that traumatized you, take a Tuesday off.
So no productivity at all.
Stay in bed. Have some tea. The realm will survive one day without you micromanaging the grain taxes.
I feel like your kingdom would be very cozy, very well rested, and absolutely fundamentally vulnerable to a siege within the first week.
Hey, cozy kingdoms deserve defense too.
Which actually brings me to the infrastructure.
Yeah.
What does our dream castle look like? Because if I am building a fortress, it is all about defensibility and geometry. I want a moat. I want high ground. I want a fortress carved directly into the side of a mountain where nobody can just sneak in through a secret passage that some troll paranoid king built 100 years ago.
Literally Megor ruining everything for everyone.
Exactly. I want clear sight lines for archers and absolutely zero blind spot.
See, I completely fundamentally disagree with that. I want aesthetics.
Aesthetics over survival.
Yes. I want massive stained glass windows catching the morning light, gorgeous Myrish tapestries that don't depict gruesome murders for once, and lush, sprawling gardens with fountains. I want it to look like a literal fairy tale.
That sounds like a terrible idea strategically.
Psychological dominance is a defense. If my castle looks like the gods themselves built it, the peasants are going to be too awestruck to rebel.
Okay, but stained glass is structurally weak. A single 90-kilogram stone launched from a basic trebuchet would shatter your entire aesthetic and your psychological dominance in about 5 minutes.
Well, we just outlaw trebuchets. Boom, solved.
And your lush gardens. They are perfect shadow-filled hiding spots for assassins. You are basically building an assassin sanctuary.
This is exactly why you are on my small council. You can handle the dreary, depressing defense stuff, and I will handle the vibes.
I would be so stressed out working for you.
You would love it. But honestly, who else is on the council? I feel like I'd want someone who just validates me and tells me my stained glass looks pretty, which I know is terrible leadership, but it sounds exhausting to be argued with all day.
Yeah, you would be surrounded by sycophants who are actively stealing from the treasury within a week. I would want a council of people who actively, passionately hate me, but who deeply love their jobs.
Who hates you but loves their job. That sounds toxic.
I'm at the most cynical, detail-oriented accountants running the realm. I want people who will look at a ledger and tell me I am an idiot for buying memory foam, and absolutely no one who owns a reptile is allowed in the building.
Which brings us to the most important hypothetical question. If you had the opportunity, are you riding a dragon?
I have thought about this extensively.
I bet you have.
And from a purely analytical standpoint, the aerodynamics are absolutely terrifying. You are hundreds of feet in the air with no seatbelt, strapped to a living, breathing flamethrower that could just decide it doesn't like your vibe today.
But it's a dragon.
You have to account for wind resistance, the tensile strength of the saddle leather, the sheer G-force of a dive. I would run the math, realize the mortality rate is astronomical, and respectfully decline. I would be completely terrified.
Oh, I would 100% ride one without a single hesitation. But I would be crying the entire time.
Just sobbing in the sky.
Literally. I would be clinging to those dorsal spikes, weeping, screaming like, I love you, but please slow down. I would be a complete mess, but I would do it for the drama.
The dragon would be so confused.
But the real question is, between the two of us, who would inevitably let the absolute power go to their heads and turn into a full-blown tyrant?
It is you. It is absolutely unequivocally you.
What? Why me? I just wanted memory foam.
Because you lead with emotion. You want everything to be beautiful and comfortable and perfectly curated, and the second someone disrupts your peace or threatens your beautiful garden, you would snap.
I mean...
You would point at them and say, Dracarys, burn them!
Yeah.
I would be way too busy trying to balance the agricultural budget and hyperventilating over the tax ledgers to ever become a tyrant.
You know what? I hate how accurate that is. I would absolutely snap if someone ruined my garden. It is a deeply fair roast.
Thank you.
Okay, so obviously we can't run a medieval kingdom, but what if we took famous Westerosi problems and solved them with modern 2026 technology? Think about the logistical blind spots we could fix. For example, Targaryen group therapy.
Oh, complete with trust falls.
Yes, but the trust falls end in literal fire. Imagine the mediator saying, okay, Aemond, cross your arms, fall backwards, your brother Aegon will catch you.
That is a disaster waiting to happen.
And Aegon just immediately steps aside to take a sip of wine and lets Aemond fall backward into a pit of hot embers.
And how fast do you think a modern-day professional mediator would just quit?
5 minutes, tops. The mediator walks in with a clipboard, says, okay, who wants to start by expressing their truth? And Daemon immediately chops their head off for breathing too loudly and disrupting his brooding.
Yeah, human resources does not exist in the Red Keep. But what about dragons fitted with GPS trackers? We desperately needed that technology this week. It would solve so many geopolitical crises.
Right, you just open the Find My Dragon app. Like you left Vhagar in Windish Town again.
Just a little red dot on the map.
I am looking at the tracker, Aemond, and her little dot is hovering over a tavern in the Riverlands. Go pick up your ancient war crime.
The logistics of dragon tracking would prevent half the wars in this universe. And imagine the small council meetings conducted over Zoom.
Oh my god, the chaos. Demon, you're on mute. Actually, you know what? Stay on mute. We prefer you on mute.
Rhaenyra would constantly have to change her Zoom background to a nice, calm beach to hide the fact that she is pacing around the painted table on Dragonstone, visibly sweating and stressed out of her mind.
And the chat feature. The direct messages going on behind Rhaenyra's back between the council members. Like, did you see what Torrhen Manderly just said? Rolling my eyes.
A royal group chat would be the literal end of the realm. Just predict how quickly a single passive-aggressive emoji would start the Dance of the Dragons.
One single thumbs-up emoji from Allison in response to a deeply emotional 4-paragraph text from Rhaenyra. War declared instantly. The banners are called.
A thumbs up in that context is an act of violence. It truly is.
It is. Okay, final survival question before we get to the actual episode. We have to rank ourselves. First category, most likely to accidentally insult a king to his face.
That is me, without question.
You think so?
I would be looking at the parchment, I would point out a glaring logistical flaw in their battle plan, or I would tell them their new tax policy is mathematically unsound and regressive, and I would lose my head before the dessert course was even served.
You totally would. You'd push your glasses up and say, actually, Your Grace, the grain silos are operating at a 20% inefficiency, and they would just signal the executioner.
Yep, dead on day one.
Okay, what about most likely to become Hand of the King?
Also me.
Mm-hmm.
Provided I survive the initial insult. Because once they calm down and realize I am actually right about the grain silos and they are saving money, they will want me running the spreadsheets.
True. You are indispensable once they get over their massive egos. Okay, most likely to be eaten by a dragon.
That is you.
Nice. Wait, why?
You would try to pet it. You would walk right up to a 150-foot apex predator and be like, look at the big scaly puppy. He's just acting out because of his generational trauma. And then jump. Gone.
I feel so incredibly attacked right now, but I cannot even argue because you are absolutely right. I would try to validate the dragon's feelings and I would literally die doing it. What about most likely to accidentally start a war?
Also you.
Stop.
You would send a raven with the wrong tone, or you would forget to invite someone to a massive feast because you didn't like their aesthetic vibes, and suddenly there is a 10,000-man army marching on our beautiful, structurally weak stained glass castle.
My aesthetic boundaries are firm. I will not apologize for protecting my peace. Okay, last one. Most likely to abandon the kingdom entirely and open a bakery across the narrow sea.
Honestly, we would do that together.
Yeah, we really would.
We would look at the political murder, the rampant incest, the complete lack of indoor plumbing, and the stress of it all, and we would just pack our bags, move to Bravos, and start making lemon cakes.
It is the only logical choice. Neither of us has the survival skills for even 3 episodes of this show. We would be collateral damage in the background of a joust. But babes, enough about our imaginary kingdoms. Let's head back to Westeros, where communication skills are still rarer than dragons.
Let's do it. So if there's one overarching theme to this hour of television, it's that concept of hunting and being hunted. The predators and the prey.
Yes. Every single plotline we're about to discuss is about that dynamic. And what makes it so brilliant, I think, is how often they switch places in the middle of a scene. Like, the hunter becomes the hunted over and over again.
Exactly. So let's start right in the absolute mess of King's Landing, where the political isolation is palpable. We get this incredible, tense scene with Rhaenyra and Daemon in the Grand Sept, and they are bickering back and forth in High Valyrian.
Which, first of all, is such a massive, intimidating flex. They are surrounded by these priests of the Faith of the Seven, and they switch to High Valyrian just so they can argue about their failing war strategy in front of everyone without the commoners knowing what they're saying.
It is the medieval royal equivalent of spelling words out in front of your toddlers so they don't know you're talking about taking them to the dentist.
Exactly. Like Daemon is being a jerk right now.
But look at the context of where they are. Rhaenyra is praying to the Seven. Now, Targaryens historically do not really believe in the Andal gods. They practice exceptionalism. They think they're closer to gods than men.
Right, they ride dragons. They don't need gods.
But Rhaenyra is so deeply stressed, so burdened by the weight of this crown, that she is just trying everything. She is searching for any kind of divine guidance. And Daemon is just looking at her with sheer contempt, like, what on earth are you doing?
Let's look at what they are actually arguing about, though, because it is a massive ideological split. Rhaenyra is paying the poor instead of paying her gold cloaks. The City Watch's wages have been frozen, and she is taking the crown's money and giving it away as alms to the small folk to win PR points and show she is a compassionate queen.
And from an analytical macroeconomic perspective, this is a catastrophic logistical nightmare. You cannot win a brutal civil war with PR alone. You need an army, you need local law enforcement, and you need security.
She just wants them to like her.
But a state only functions because it maintains a monopoly on violence. If you stop paying the men with swords who enforce that monopoly, they're going to stop swinging those swords for you. They will find someone else who will pay them. Daemon is furious because he understands the street-level economics of King's Landing. He tells her 2 gold cloaks were found dead in Flea Bottom, and she just brushes it off.
But you have to look at it from her emotional state. I mean, you know what I mean. She wants to be a good queen. She sees the small folk suffering under the blockade and the war, and she wants to alleviate that pain. She is hyper-fixated on the macro threat, which is Vhagar being spotted in the Riverlands.
Oh, the giant flying nuke.
Exactly. To her, 2 dead guards in an alley are a local police issue, not a royal issue. But Daemon is basically telling her, you are ignoring a rot inside your own house while staring at the horizon.
And the way he handles it is so destructive. He completely undermines her in front of the council. He actively disrespects her authority as the sovereign.
He really does. And when she finally pulls him aside in the hallway to confront him about it, we get the most toxic line of the entire discussion. She asks if her voice must compete with his, demanding to know if he respects her commands. And Daemon just looks at her completely dead-eyed and says, I've pledged to fulfill your commands. Just later.
I physically cringed. It is such an insidious form of disrespect.
I was screaming at my screen, I cannot handle this level of toxic disrespect. Just later. Who says that to the ruling monarch?
He is basically treating the queen's commands like a household chore he is putting off. Like, yeah, honey, I'll take out the trash.
Yeah.
Just later. It is infuriating.
The audacity of this man.
But from his perspective, he genuinely believes she is focusing on the wrong things. She is playing high-minded politics and religious piety, and he knows they're in a dirty, gritty street war. He thinks he is protecting her from her own idealism.
But her idealism is breaking down, and her trauma is severely isolating her. She is so deeply trapped in her own head, consumed by the war and her grief. And we see the devastating human cost of this in what I am calling the bad mom moment of the week.
Oh, this was rough to watch.
She gets the news that her son, Joffrey, has finally returned to the castle. Joffrey, her youngest surviving son, who she hasn't seen in ages because of the danger. And what does she do when she hears he is back?
She does the exact same thing Daemon just did to her. She says she will visit him just later.
Exactly. It is a vicious cycle. And by the time she finally forces herself to go to his room hours later, Joffrey has already fallen asleep waiting for her. He stayed up hoping his mother would come, and she didn't.
You are seeing the generational trauma compounding in real time.
I was spiraling over this. This family just fundamentally refuses to hug each other. King Viserys neglected Rhaenyra for years, focusing on his own guilt and his new family. Now, Rhaenyra is neglecting Joffrey because she is consumed by the heavy crown and her paralyzing grief over losing Luke and Jace.
It is a cycle of emotional unavailability that is going to systematically destroy them all. She is pushing away the very people she is supposedly fighting to protect.
And while she is actively avoiding her children, her small council has devolved into an absolute circus. We have Sabitha Frey aggressively complaining about Harrenhal being offered as a bounty for Aemon's head, completely outraged because it was promised to her house.
And then you have Torrhen Manderly just sitting in the corner, gossiping and whispering. Honestly, going back to our modern solutions, a simple Slack channel could have prevented this entire council meeting.
Right? Just send an update.
Hey team, @channel, Harrenhal is now a bounty. Please update your ledgers accordingly.
But instead, we get all this passive-aggressive whispering and side-eye. And did you notice the visual motif happening during these scenes? The cats.
Yes, absolutely. The cats roaming around the Red Keep. Last season, the visual motif was the rats. The rats symbolized the rot within the walls, the decay of Viserys' reign, and the traitors scurrying in the dark. Now they have brought in the cats to hunt the rats. Goes right back to that overarching theme of hunting and being hunted.
But the cats are also these silent, predatory observers. There is a deeply unsettling scene where this young girl, Orwell, who is one of Myzaria's spies, is just watching everything unfold. Everyone is watching everyone else. The paranoia is suffocating.
That same psychological isolation and paranoia Rhaenyra is experiencing in the Red Keep is playing out in a much darker, much more visceral way in the Riverlands. If Rhaenyra is isolating herself from her children, Aemon is desperately searching for a mother figure in the damp, rotting halls of Harrenhal.
Ah, Harrenhal, the dampest, most cursed real estate in all of Westeros. So Aemon is there recovering from getting stabbed in the previous battles, and we see him wake up in that incredibly creaky weirwood bed.
The exact same bed Daemon tripped out in last season.
Yes, and Aemon is literally crying in Ellis River's lap. He is haunted by these vivid, horrifying visions of his brother Aegon burning, which, let's remind ourselves, Aemon explicitly caused. He commanded Vhagar to burn Aegon.
He is experiencing extreme guilt, compounded by severe PTSD. The weirwood trees in Westerosi lore are conduits for memories and the old gods. Harrenhal is essentially a psychological pressure cooker.
It actually broke my heart a little bit. My emotional read here is that Aemond, underneath the leather eye patch and the tough, arrogant anime villain act, is a deeply broken, terrified little boy crying out for his mother. The guilt of kinslaying is eating him alive from the inside. He actually whimpers the word mother.
It is a raw moment for sure.
It is such a vulnerable moment for a character who usually presents as completely untouchable.
My analytical read is that he does not need a mysterious swamp witch. He needs intensive cognitive behavioral therapy and a licensed psychiatrist.
Okay, true. But Westeros doesn't have those, so he gets Alice Rivers.
And Alides is exploiting his vulnerability perfectly. She is projecting exactly what he needs to see. He has massive maternal abandonment issues because Alicent was always so focused on Aegon. Elise steps into that void.
She totally does.
She is systematically isolating him, cutting him off from the outside world. She tells him Vhagar is gone, leaving him stranded. She is building this incredibly toxic, dependent psychological dynamic where he feels she is his only anchor to reality.
And then the reality of the war shatters that quiet moment. The home invasion happens. A group of Team Black bounty hunters show up in the dead of night to claim the bounty on Aemond. And one of them is an Ironborn who literally looks at Alice and says he wants her as a salt wife, which is so deeply gross and terrifying.
It is a terrifying moment of immediate physical danger, but Alice just stays completely preternaturally calm. She doesn't use fireballs or overt magic. She uses the environment. She picks up a rock and throws it into the dark ruins to disturb a massive colony of bats, causing them to swarm the attackers.
With that man's special attack.
Exactly. It is tactical environmental combat.
It was so visually stunning. And then Aemon bursts into the room. He is shirtless, he is heavily wounded, his bandages are bleeding, and he just slaughters all of them. He is doing this entire intricate sword fight while actively bleeding out, taking these guys apart with surgical, lethal precision. And the final kill, he impales a man on a thick, jagged root of the weirwood tree.
Visually, it is a blood sacrifice to the old gods. The weirwood roots literally drinking the blood of his enemies. Yeah. It grounds the violence in the ancient magic of the setting.
It was a gorgeous, gruesome sequence. But let's be real here for a second. We know Aemond. He is totally doing this shirtless and wounded just to impress his new witch therapist, right?
Oh, absolutely. It is highly performative violence mixed with genuine lethal skill. He wants Aelystis to see him as this tragic, powerful, unstoppable protector. He is essentially saying, look at what I can do for you. Look at how much I need you.
It's so twisted.
It is a deeply weird, twisted courtship ritual born out of trauma.
So weird. But while Aemond is retreating into the fantasy of a mother figure to cope with his guilt, his brother Aegon is being forced to face reality by the harshest mentor possible.
This brings us to one of the most structurally satisfying scenes of the entire series. Aegon and Larys Strong are fleeing, hiding out in the muddy, miserable Crownlands near Rook's Rest.
Just having the worst camping trip ever.
Aegon is sulking by a fire, bitterly complaining about how Aemond had every advantage, how unfair everything is, how the world has wronged him, and Larys Strong, the man who has spent 3 entire seasons whispering in the shadows, manipulating, bowing, and playing the sycophant, finally loses it.
It is the ultimate read. Larys tells the king right to his face that Aegon had every conceivable advantage a person could have in this world. He had the unimaginable wealth of the crown. He had the best tutors in the realm. He literally had a beautiful, loyal, golden dragon named Sunfire. And Larys says he threw it all away because he was weak.
And that devastating quote.
Yes. You were a terrible king, but worse than that, you are a terrible man.
My analytical take here is that Larys is absolutely, undeniably right. It is the single most honest conversation anyone has had all season. Larys strips away all the royal delusion, all the yes-men sycophancy. He holds up a brutal mirror to Aegon's complete squandering of his immense privilege.
And my emotional take is watching Aegon's reaction. Tom Glencarney's performance here is brilliant. You see Aegon's leg tapping uncontrollably with anxiety. His eyes are darting, but he just sits there and takes it. He doesn't scream for his guards. He doesn't order Larys killed for treason.
Because he knows it's true.
Exactly, because deep down, in the absolute core of his being, Aegon knows he is a massive failure. He has always known it. Viserys basically told him his whole life. He needed someone to finally tell him the ugly truth out loud.
It is a calculated psychological teardown. Larys breaks him down completely to build him back up. Larys realizes that if he's going to use Aegon as his ticket to return to absolute power, he cannot be dragging a petulant, delusional child around the countryside. He needs a king who understands the absolute life-or-death stakes of their situation. He was forging a sharper weapon.
And just when they make a gritty plan to hire a smuggler's ship and flee across the narrow sea to Essos, who stumbles into their camp, Tywin Lannister, randomly alive after the catastrophic Battle of the Gullet.
We all thought he sank to the bottom of the sea in full plate armor. The sheer logistical improbability of his survival is staggering. Armor does not float.
I was screaming. I was so delighted and completely confused. Like, did he just walk along the bottom of the ocean like a crab? Lair's face when Tywin walks up covered in mud is priceless. Lair just looks at him like, great, another idiot I have to actively manage.
But notice how the geopolitical dynamic shifts the second Tywin arrives. Tywin immediately suggests they take Aegon to Casterly Rock. Lair's instantly recognizes this as a massive power grab.
Because the Lannisters would have the king.
Exactly. Larys knows that whoever holds the physical body of the king holds the power of the realm. If the Lannisters get Aegon behind the walls of Casterly Rock, Larys loses all his leverage.
But before they can even argue about the logistics of moving to the Westerlands, we get Aegon's insane micro-kingdom moment. This local tough guy, Janos, figures out who they are and tries to steal Aegon's conqueror crown right out of his bag, and Aegon just violently snaps.
It's a completely visceral, animalistic reaction. He tackles the much larger man into the dirt and stabs him to death.
But he doesn't just stab him with a dagger, he stabs him repeatedly with a massive razor-sharp scale from Sunfire's body, his dead dragon scale. And as he is brutally, messily killing this guy in the mud, he snarls, "You will call me your grace."
It is unhinged, chaotic, desperate violence. But symbolically, it shows that the internal fire of the Conqueror hasn't completely gone out in Aegon. He is reclaiming his agency through physical force.
I was spiraling. Aegon getting his groove back through sheer muddy murder, and Larys is just standing in the background, sighing like a deeply tired babysitter who just watched a toddler break an expensive vase. You can practically hear Larys thinking, great, now we have a bleeding corpse to hide before the patrol comes.
It is the ultimate babysitter sigh.
Yeah.
Aegon is finding his teeth again in the mud, but hundreds of miles away in Tumbleton, a completely different kind of king is being molded through sheer psychological conditioning.
Yes. Ormund Hightower and young Daemon Targaryen.
We find them sitting in a pristine tent, playing Savas, which is essentially the Westerosi equivalent of chess. It involves pieces like dragons, mountains, rabble, and elephants. Ormund is using the mechanics of the game to teach Daemon a high-level strategy lesson, recounting the history of Maria Martell, the Yellow Toad of Dorne.
The lore drop. I love when they dive into the history.
It is a crucial piece of military history for understanding the current war. Maria Martell was the only ruler to successfully outsmart Aegon the Conqueror. When Aegon flew his massive dragons to Dorne, he expected a pitched battle. Instead, Maria emptied her castles. She left him nothing but stone to burn.
Such a boss move.
And then, her forces used guerrilla warfare. They poisoned the wells, they launched night raids, they bled Aegon's massive army dry through attrition. Ormund is telling Daemon this story to explain how the cunning, disciplined mind can defeat the savage, overwhelming beast, the beast in this analogy, being Rhaenyra and her dragons.
But while Ormund is monologuing about discipline and strategy, Daemon makes a swift move on the board. He uses his dragon piece to unexpectedly win the game. And Ormund, this man preaching discipline, just completely loses his mind. He violently flips the board, smashing the carved pieces everywhere in a sudden, terrifying rage.
But then, almost immediately, Ormund forcibly calms himself down, smooths his clothes, and says in a chillingly calm voice, "Never apologize for victory."
It is so incredibly toxic. My emotional read is that Daemon is living in a state of constant vibrating anxiety. You see his micro-expressions. He flinches. He is walking on eggshells around this thin-skinned, unpredictable abuser. He doesn't know if Ormund is going to hug him, praise him, or hit him. It is psychological abuse disguised as mentorship.
But from an analytical game theory perspective, Ormund is actually trying to teach him a harsh, necessary political lesson. Westeros does not reward apologies. It does not reward fairness. It rewards victory, no matter how brutally or deceitfully it is achieved. And Ormund isn't just teaching him philosophy. He is actively, methodically plotting his coronation. He reveals these newly minted gold coins stamped with Daemon's face.
The Daemon coins. I completely lost my mind when he pulled those out.
We have to understand the economic warfare happening here. Currency is a psychological tool of statecraft. By minting a coin with Daemon's face, Ormund is essentially telling the small folk, Aegon is gone, Rhaenyra is illegitimate, here is the new stability.
A shadow campaign.
Exactly, a shadow PR campaign. He is funding an insurgency with a fiat currency that literally declares his protege the new king. It is a brilliant terrifying strategic move that bypasses dragons entirely.
Ormund is terrifying because he is so composed, he is so clean, he meticulously washes his hands after touching a messenger pigeon, but his mind is so dirty with these plots. And that exact strategy, Ormond is praising the guerrilla tactics of Miriam Martell, is currently actively tearing Criston Cole's forces apart in the Riverlands.
Criston Cole is having the absolute worst time, and it is entirely 100% by his own design.
They are marching this heavy traditional army through these dense, muddy, claustrophobic Riverland forests, and suddenly, out of nowhere, the horses start screaming in agony, because the rivermen have scattered caltrops all over the muddy ground.
They're evil landmines, essentially.
Yes. Caltrops are these nasty, twisted metal spikes designed so that one point is always facing up. It is brutal. Criston literally has to get down in the mud and put his own horse down to end its suffering. It is this visceral, horrible moment that perfectly encapsulates how doomed this entire march is.
They're being hunted. The exact guerrilla tactics that Ormond praised are being used against the Greens right here. The Rivermen, led by Oscar Tully and Roddy the Ruin, are refusing to meet Cole in an open field. They are bleeding his forces dry through attrition, traps, and ambushes.
And it is working.
And when Cole finally pushes his exhausted men to the crossing at Stony Sept, he finds the wooden bridge completely burned. They are physically trapped.
And this leads to the massive breakup between Criston Cole and Gawain Hightower. Gawain is exhausted, covered in mud, and he begs Cole to abandon this obviously suicidal route and retreat to the safety of Tumbleton. And Cole just flat out refuses.
Gawain correctly points out that they're marching blindly into a trap, outnumbered roughly 200 to 1. From a military strategy perspective, it is an indefensible blunder. Cole is literally leading 200 loyal men into a suicide mission simply because he's depressed. A commander's first, most sacred duty is to the lives of his men, not to his own morbid, romanticized desire for a glorious end.
But the quote, Cole looks at Gawain with this dead-eyed stare and says, "I am the realm's greatest warrior, and I will die as such. Clear-eyed, unbent, glorious in battle, and they will sing songs of it. And Queen Alicent herself will hear them."
It is wildly, infuriatingly self-indulgent.
It is the ultimate toxic masculinity pity party. Cole just wants Alicent to hear a sad song about him on Westerosi radio and cry over what she lost. He is actively sacrificing 200 human lives just so he can have a dramatic, poetic exit. I hate it, but I also love the drama of it.
He finally realizes he has ruined everything he has ever touched, and instead of taking accountability and fixing it, he wants to flip the board, much like Ormond playing Savas. So Gawain does the only logical thing. He takes a small group of pragmatic riders in deserts. He leaves Cole to his doom.
I do not blame him at all. I would be like, okay, enjoy your emo death march. I'm going to Tumbleton where it's dry.
But Cole is trapped by his own hubris in the mud. Meanwhile, back in the Red Keep, Alicent and Helaena are literally trapped in the dark by the patriarchal structures they have spent their whole lives upholding.
This plotline was claustrophobic in every conceivable sense of the word.
We get the massive, world-altering reveal that Helaena is pregnant. And Alicent, who understands the political reality better than anyone, knows that if Helaena gives birth to a boy, Rhaenyra will absolutely have to kill that baby to secure her throne. You cannot leave a male rival alive. So Grand Maester Orwyle smuggles in Moon Tea, the Westerosi Plan B, which is historically accurate. Medieval societies relied heavily on herbal abortifacients like pennyroyal to control royal succession. Alicent tries to force Helaena to drink it, genuinely believing it is for her own protection.
But Helaena violently refuses. She slaps the cup away and screams, "It's mine." It is such a raw, desperate moment of agency for Helaena. She has lost so much. She lost her son Jaehaerys to assassins, she lost her husband to the war, and she refuses to let her mother take this baby from her.
But the political reality remains that a pregnant Helaena is a massive walking liability, and they're being watched. One of Viserys' spies catches them with the tea. So in a moment of panic and quick thinking, Alicent grabs the cup and drinks the moon tea herself, covering for Helaena.
Which is a wild, poetic reversal from Season 1, when Alicent forced a maid to drink moon tea to cover up Aegon's crimes. But the tension does not stop there. Alicent realizes they are no longer safe, so they have to get out of the Red Keep immediately. They dress up like common maids, go into pure stealth mode, and try to escape through Maegor's secret tunnels, using the hidden entrance in Bela's old room.
Which is, ironically, the exact same tunnel system Blood and Cheese used to break in and murder Helena's son. The psychological trauma of forcing Helaena to re-enter that specific space must be astronomically high.
It is. But before they can even get far, Mysaria confronts them in the hallway.
Mysaria is brilliant here. She plays both sides flawlessly. She knows Rhaenyra is struggling under the immense pressure of the crown, and she tells Alicent that she isn't just the Black Queen's loyal lapdog.
So sneaky.
She implies she might help them, hedging her bet in case the Greens somehow win the war. She is diversifying her political portfolio.
So the queens run into the tunnel, the heavy stone door shuts behind them with this awful final thud, the lantern light flickers out, and they walk forward only to hit a bricked-up dead end.
They are completely physically trapped in pitch darkness inside the walls of the Red Keep. Maegor the Cruel built these tunnels to trap his enemies, and now his descendants are caught in them.
I was freaking out over the claustrophobia. I was literally yelling at my screen, why didn't you map the tunnels first? You do not just run into a medieval secret passage without checking if it actually leads outside. If they don't have a torch, how do they even find the latch to get back out?
It is the perfect tragic metaphor for Alicent's entire character arc. She constantly seeks a way out of the rigid structures built by the men before her, only to find that she is solidly bricked in by the very patriarchal system she spent her youth helping to uphold.
That is so true. She is literally and figuratively trapped by the patriarchy. And that feeling of being trapped, of the walls closing in, culminates in the most horrifying moment of the entire discussion. This brings us to the gruesome climax.
This is where all of Ormund Hightower's quiet, distant shadow games come to a horrific head.
Daemon has been arguing with Rhaenyra all episode about paying attention to the City Watch. He finally goes down there and rallies them with a massive speech, promising them gold and glory if they stand with the Queen. But when he returns to the City Watch barracks later that night, it is completely silent.
He walks in, and the smell of copper and death hits him first.
And then we see it. Sir Luthor Largent, the fiercely loyal commander of the Gold Cloaks, and 8 of his top lieutenants, slaughtered.
But it's not just a murder. It is highly calculated psychological warfare. Their bodies are mutilated, their eyes are gouged out, and they are arranged around a long wooden table in this grotesque parody of the Last Supper.
And written on the stone wall behind them, in their own blood, are the words, "A feast for traitors." I had chills, actual physical chills.
Daemon realizes in that exact moment that this wasn't a random flea-bottom riot. This was a highly coordinated, incredibly expensive assassination plot, and he knows exactly who funded it.
Ormund Hightower, using those newly minted Darren coins to pay flea-bottom assassins to gut the City Watch from the inside out.
It proves 2 vital things simultaneously. First, it proves that Rhaenyra was completely right to be paranoid. Her hold on the city is incredibly fragile, and there is a massive coordinated conspiracy moving against her in the shadows.
But second, it proves Daemon was absolutely right that she should have paid the Gold Cloaks. If she hadn't frozen their wages, they might have been more vigilant, they might have caught the assassins.
Exactly. Ormund Hightower is 60 leagues away, sitting comfortably in Tumbleton playing board games, and he just completely dismantled Rhaenyra's primary defense force without losing a single one of his own soldiers. It is a masterclass in insurgency and economic warfare.
It is absolute horror mixed with just deep, begrudging respect for Ormund's ruthless game. And that ending note is just so dark. It perfectly sets us up for our debate segments. When you step back and look at the sheer scale of the manipulation we've just witnessed, you have to ask yourself, who is actually playing this political game the best right now? Let's crown our player the throne.
I am always ready to judge these people.
Okay, I am going first. I honestly think it might be Mysoria.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Defend it.
Look at what she accomplished. She successfully played both Rhaenyra and Alicent. She is sitting comfortably on the small council, whispering in Rhaenyra's ear, building her trust. But the second she catches Alicent trying to escape, she doesn't just run and turn her in to the guards. She uses it to build a bridge.
Right, the long game.
She tells Alicent about the crushing weight of the crown on Rhaenyra, basically signaling, hey, if this Black Queen thing doesn't work out, remember that I kept your secret. She is ensuring she survives no matter who ultimately wins the war. It is peak white worm behavior.
That is a very strong argument. She is diversifying her political portfolio, ensuring she has equity in both camps. But I have to give player of the throne to Ormund Hightower.
I knew you were going to pick the guy minting the crypto coins.
He's not just a crypto bro. Look at the board state. He is sitting safely in Tumbleton, playing Zivas and teaching history lessons, while simultaneously crippling his enemy's capital city. He accurately identified that the Gold Cloaks were Rhaenyra's center of gravity in King's Landing.
And he took them out.
Instead of fighting them head-on with a massive army, he used a shadow insurgency funded by his own custom currency. He is minting money, undermining the reigning monarch's legitimacy and creating a psychological terror campaign. He is playing 4D chess while everyone else is playing checkers in the mud.
I hate how right you are. Ormund is a terrifying menace because he doesn't even have to get his hands dirty. But politics aside, the raw emotional impact of these moments is what really sticks with you. If we had to isolate the most defining moment, the true dragon of the week, since the literal dragons were mostly sleeping or missing, aside from Aegon stabbing a guy with a piece of sunfire, of course.
Which was an iconic use of a dragon part. But yes, let's break it down. Best scene.
For me, it is absolutely Larys reading Aegon for filth by the campfire.
It has to be. The tension in that scene, the way Larry stands up, which is visibly difficult and painful for him just so he can physically loom over the king, and the dialogue is razor sharp. You are a terrible king, but worse than that, you are a terrible man. It is the catharsis we have been waiting 3 entire seasons for.
And Tom Glencarney's acting with the tapping leg, just brilliant. Okay, next. Biggest power move. I am torn between Aegon stabbing Genos while demanding his title, or Aemon slaughtering the Ironborn.
From a purely physical standpoint, Aemon impaling a large man on a weirwood root while half naked and recovering from a stab wound is a massive, undeniable flex.
It really was.
But politically, Aegon demanding to be called Your Grace while his hands are literally covered in blood shows that the internal fire of the conqueror hasn't gone out yet. It is a massive turning point for his character's psychology.
I am giving it to Aegon just because the sigh from Larys in the background elevates the whole violent moment to high art. Okay. Oh, shocking moment.
Unquestionably the Last Supper Gold Cloak massacre. The visual of Luthor Largent with his eyes violently gouged out, arranged at a feast, it invokes such deep religious and historical dread. It is psychological warfare designed to terrify the viewer as much as demon.
It was so deeply disturbing I actually gasped out loud. And finally, most emotional performance.
You're going to pick Aemon crying for his mommy, aren't you?
You know me so well. Yes, you and Mitchell stripping away all the anime villain posturing, taking off the eye patch, to just be a terrified, guilty little boy trembling in a witch's lap. Give him the Emmy right now. But I also have to give a massive honorable mention to Helaena screaming, "It's mine!" over the moon tea. Fia Sabin broke my heart in that scene. She has so little control over her life, and she is holding on to this pregnancy like a life raft in a storm.
It was a powerful, desperate assertion of agency. All right, looking at the macro level, who is actually winning this war, let's analyze the overall state of the board. Strongest alliance. Is it Daemon and Ormund, or Aemon and Ellys?
Well, Aegon and Ormond's alliance is built on fear, table flipping, and toxic mentorship, but it is yielding undeniable results. They have an army, they have a propaganda machine, and they are aligned on their goals. Aemon and Ellys is, well, a psychological horror movie waiting to happen.
Yeah, Ellys is definitely playing Aemon. She is manipulating his trauma, so Daemon and Ormund take it for actual effectiveness. What about the biggest mistake?
Oh, Rhaenyra alienating her allies and ignoring the City Watch payroll? She is prioritizing optics over security. You do not freeze the wages of the heavily armed men guarding your bedroom while a civil war is happening outside your window.
I agree it's a massive political error, but I also think Kristen Cole marching 200 men into an obvious caltrop ambush just because he's feeling sad is a colossal military blunder.
It is a tactical disaster, but it only cost 200 men. Rhaenyra's mistake could cost her the entire capital city.
Fair point. Economics usually dictate the outcome of a war. Most dangerous player, we already covered this, Ormund Hightower.
Yeah, he is 60 leagues away and completely dismantling King's Landing from the inside. He doesn't even need a dragon. Okay, last category for this segment, character you're rooting for. Who do you desperately want to survive this absolute mess?
Honestly.
Tywin Lannister.
Well, because he simply refuses to die. He gets thrown off a burning ship in heavy plate armor, washes ashore covered in mud, and immediately starts trying to negotiate a better deal for his house with a deposed king. The man's commitment to the political hustle is unparalleled.
That is hilarious. I am rooting for Helaena. Always Helaena. I just want her to find a quiet, tall tower with her bugs and her babies and be left alone by these absolute psychopaths for the rest of her life.
A noble, beautiful wish, but statistically unlikely in Westeros. Which brings us to our final discussion, prophecies and predictions. Let's look ahead to where this is all going.
Okay, biggest prediction. What happens at the Butcher's Ball? Does Cole actually get his glorious, song-worthy death?
Knowing the grim reality of this universe, absolutely not. Cole wants a glorious, romanticized death, which means he is going to get something muddy, humiliating, and entirely unglamorous. The Rivermen are not going to duel him honorably one-on-one. They are going to shoot him with an arrow from 100 yards away while he's in the middle of giving a dramatic monologue.
I would genuinely love that for him. The poetic injustice of it. Okay, character in the most danger right now.
It has to be Alicent and Helaena. They are literally trapped in a pitch-black wall in a castle, crawling with spies and assassins who want them dead.
I am so stressed about that bricked-up door. If they don't have a torch, how do they get out? Do they just slowly starve in the walls like the rats? Ugh, next major betrayal.
I think Mysaria is going to betray Rhaenyra to save Alicent,
Wait, really? Why would she do that?
because Mysaria sees the writing on the wall. Rhaenyra is losing her grip on the city's security. If King's Landing falls into total chaos, Mysaria needs leverage with the Greens. Handing over Alicent and Helaena safely to Ormund Hightower, that buys her a royal pardon and a seat at the new table.
Oh, that is devious and completely logically plausible. Okay, my turn for the completely chaotic theory. Are you ready for this?
Lay it on me. I'm ready to analyze the chaos.
Okay, two parts. First, Alice Rivers is going to get pregnant with Aemon's child to create a super seer shadow baby that controls the Weirwoods. And second, Sunfire is still alive.
Okay, the Alice Rivers theory tracks with her whole creepy, isolationist seduction vibe, but Sunfire, we literally saw Aegon holding a piece of his body.
Exactly. A scale, not a skull. Until I see a massive golden dragon corpse, I am choosing to believe that Sunfire is out there in the woods, healing like a giant golden lizard, eating sheep, and waiting to reunite with his toxic dad. I am spiraling over the possibility of a comeback.
That is the literal definition of a chaotic theory. But in this show, where Tywin Lannister survives the bottom of the ocean, I cannot mathematically rule it out.
I know. Ugh, I need the next part of the story immediately. But that brings us to the end of our spiraling session today. Consider the irony that the most devastating blow struck against Rhaenyra this week wasn't with a dragon or an army or a sword. It was struck with a small piece of gold stamped with the teenager's face. It makes you wonder, if the Iron Throne is forged of swords, maybe it should have been forged of coins. Because the swords are rusting in the mud, but the gold is what's actually burning the city down. Now we turn it over to you. We need you to weigh in on the discussion.
We have 3 questions for the Snark Squad this week. First, who made the smartest move this episode? Was it Ormund with his Shadow War, or someone else?
Second, which dragon would you choose to ride if you had to? Are you a massive Vhagar fan, or do you want a sleek, fast one like Caraxes?
And finally, who do you think ultimately deserves the Iron Throne? And frankly, do they even want it at this point, or is it just a cursed chair that ruins everyone who touches it?
Let us know your thoughts. Thank you so much for hanging out, drinking cocktails, and spiraling with us.
Please remember to subscribe, leave us a 5-star review, and share this recap with another fantasy-loving babe in your life. It really helps us out.
It does. We love unboxing this chaos with you. So until next week, stay loyal, stay legendary, and we'll see you on the Snark side.